Hello there, my name is Gunnar Clovis. I'm a game developer, and today I'd like to play 7ko's game Color Roller on itch.io. This was made for the TriJam Ultimate Mega Extreme Edition of 2019, as you can see right there. This is their only game up on itch so far. It seems like they just started doing game development, and so I'm very excited to play it again. I did play it a little bit for this Mega TriJam 2019. The Mega TriJam is a game jam where you have 9 hours to build a game. You have 3 hours to do art, 3 hours to do music, and 3 hours to do programming. And I believe this was made with a team. It doesn't link it up there. Okay, created together with Romanovg185. Okay, and then the GitHub here. Cool. So it looks like it's made by two people. Very first game jam for both of them, which is fantastic. They have Godot, used Ace Sprite, Beatbox. I'm not actually familiar with Beatbox. Oh, cool. Yeah, it looks like a little simple music editor. Awesome. Looks sick. And then the Mega TriJam had three themes. End is near, mistakes were made in +1. It looks like they tried to use all three in some way or another and bolded that, which is very, very nice. Pretty simple itch.io page. When you upload your games to itch, try to customize the page a little bit. When you're editing your page, you'll have like edit themes button up here in the top left corner. Then you can change the background color, the secondary background color, like this little bar color. You can change the font and the colors, and even the link color. And you can embed images, which I admittedly am not the best at this, but you can do great like cover images on here. You have screenshots on the side, do background art. I tend to just use art from my game itself to decorate the itch.io page, which is good. I feel like it is better than just having like this default black and gray. But there's some people that go really above and beyond, especially, artists. I am not an artist, and so I'm not great at making those assets to decorate the page. But yeah, really try to spruce up your page. I like to use colors that fit the color palette of the game, and just I try to use a font that maybe somewhat fits with this, but readability is the most important to me. But without further ado, let's plug this up. So you have the loading bar, because this is made in Godot. Really awesome. It's playable in Flash. That is basically required for the TriJam jams, which is fantastic. For all of your itch.io games, I cannot recommend enough that you make them all buildable in HTML5 or WebGL, so they're playable in browser if you can. It's so good. GameMaker, Unity, Unreal, and Godot, all the major engines, export to HTML5, WebGL, pretty good. Unity especially has like its own custom integration with itch.io, I believe, with some of their exports. All right, game does not start. Try refreshing the page. Let's do that. Yep, sometimes that just happens. So here we're doing up to jump. There we go. Up to jump and spacebar to change color. There we go. Ooh. Okay, I was trying to press W to jump, but it looks like I do have to press the up arrow. So wherever you can, always try to make redundancies with your control scheme. I like to do WSD, arrow keys, and ZQSD always at the very minimum. Could also do IJKL. I forget off the top of my head, but there's the equivalent for people with Dvorak keyboards. So yeah, this game is very simple. It does start off pretty slow here. Just kind of a endless runner trying to survive. I think it's just a one-hit kill. Very nice minimalistic graphics. I do rather like the graphics, actually. Oh, okay. Yeah, all right, so that's one hit kill. But look at that, just like really nice, simple snow particles in the background. I don't know if those are probably particles in the game if there's their first game. And look at that game over. It's just really nicely stylized with the snow on it. I really like that. And press spacebar to try again. Always have restart mechanics built into your games, as this does. That's perfect. And remember, do take into account that this was only made in 9 hours, which is fantastic for a first game. I really recommend doing game jams, and I particularly love the TriJam. Having the 3-hour time limit forces me to do it, so I can't procrastinate really, as I am prone to do with 72-hour and especially like month-long game jams. Now, one thing I'm noticing is right now in my play session, all of the music is coming out of the left side. I'm wearing headphones, and it is entirely in my left ear, and all of the sound effects come out the right side. Now, that is actually kind of interesting. Games don't typically try to make use of the left-right stereo audio. That is really good for more complicated games, especially 3D games. You can have positional audio so that it sounds very grounded in the world, and that, like, when a character moves behind you. Whoa! Okay, that was interesting. Huh. Alright, so what happened there is instead of pressing up, I pressed space at, like, the exact instant I collided with a rail. And so that just made it freak out a little bit and then restarted me as if I'd hit space on the game over screen, which is pretty interesting. Yeah, and that's not a huge problem. Of course, you know, that little glitchy thing, not ideal, but really not a big deal to me at all, because the game didn't break. As long as the game keeps going, you know, the show must go on. As long as the game is still restarted, who really cares if it freaks out and glitches? Again, I really like these graphics. They're very simple. Obviously, nice little monochrome, and I'm a sucker for monochrome color schemes, and especially this black and white swapping mechanic. It's the kind of thing that really gets me. I've been obsessed with this kind of idea for like 10 years now. Not in this exact form. This is just kind of switching colors, and yeah, one collides with you. I mean, I do like games like this. I've made a lot of games with a similar idea. Oh man. Okay, yeah, it's just restarting. Kind of makes the audio hiccup for a hot second. Yeah, so this does suck because I got the controls. I get it. I just want to get to that tough part, right? So the score is just incrementing up over time. It doesn't seem to have anything to do with my energy or how many blocks I eat or jump over or anything. So it's just purely survival time, which does kind of suck, because, you know, it's random, I'm pretty sure, at least to an extent. Obviously, the beginning part is pretty much the same with the tutorial text, but I could swear that, yeah, once the game gets going around here, which does take longer than I wish it would, on subsequent playthroughs. The little blocks, the spikes, stoppers, whatever you want to call them, they seem to be in a random order, right? Which they should be. That's not too complicated, although, again, keep in mind that this is these two developers' first game jam ever, as they said. I assume that means it's their first just game in general, which is awesome. Okay, oh, no. Ah! Okay. Frack. Okay, man. Yeah, so this is just really slow. I don't want to see the same text over and over. I just want to get to that bulk. And having the score just tick up over time alone, I don't love that because, yeah, then when we get to that random little flurry of blockers and black and white posts, I feel like I should be rewarded for when the RNG gives me a harder layout, right? If it gives me a bunch of posts in a row, especially if they're all like swapping different colors. I would like to get more points for that, you know, where instead, just because it's just purely time based, I feel like that puts the RNG to, but makes it even more important, and that I'm just kind of at the will of that, because I could just get long stretches of nothing and rack up the exact same amount of points as if I was doing some very complicated jumps in a really daring little escapade. Let's jump for that. Yep. Okay. Alright. So I'm not sure, obviously, switching uses more energy than it takes to... uses more energy than you get from eating a single post. It does seem pretty quick, right? In fact, I've been focusing, I think, too much on the jumping that I could use the swapping a lot more liberally. Because it is pretty God. Ah, man. All right. Yes. See, that's tough. Yeah, and I wish I could just speed up through this, skip this bit. I want to get to that hard part again. I do really love endless runners, especially from a development standpoint. They're very easy to make, really, really good for game jams, especially, I think. But here, actually, I don't know. I feel like this could maybe benefit from a level structure, because I want to beat those challenges and then, you know, move on to a harder challenge. And if it was a, 1 through 5 level structure, I know I could beat the easy first couple levels and then go to the hard levels. And when I lose at that, I don't have to play through the easy stuff again. I can just go right back to where I died, which is a big benefit of that kind of level design. Yeah, the music is nice. It's very chill, but again, it's only playing out of my left speaker. Well, the sound effects only play out the right, which I don't think I really love. It, yeah, again, you can use stereo for a lot of really interesting purposes to localize sound. Normally you'd have the in-world microphone or listener centered on the player, and then all the different sound effects could pinpoint themselves in relation to the player. So if something was behind me through the stereo speakers, it would sound like it was behind me, to my left, to my right, wherever it was in the game world properly. And here, I don't think that's really doing anything. It honestly sounds kind of weird and bad that the music and sound effects are just coming out of separate speakers, and it's like, why? It's just kind of making the same grating sounds in one ear versus the other, where if it was just normal mono audio, I think it would be fine. That's a big common mistake in not only game development, but just kind of any audio work, is people love to use stereo because it's like, oh, it's double the tracks, it's more information, it's just better, right? But that's not usually the case. With voiceover and sound effects and music, especially music, actually, you should almost always just use mono. Again, unless you're using that kind of 3D localization with the sound effects, with the music. Not with music. Music is always going to be mono unless it's I forget the term, but like in-universe music. Oh, there's a filmmaking term. I can't remember what it is. But yeah, just when the music exists within the game world and it's not just an overlaid, thing. Oh, that's gonna bug me. I'll think of that later. That's about the only time music should be... what did I do that? That's the only time music should be not mono, and you can make that kind of change direction with the speakers and volume. But again, that's only my experience right now. I'm fairly confident my headphones are fine, but maybe they're just acting up. But I doubt it. Yeah, it's a very simple game. There's not a ton to do, but someone's their first game jam, and honestly, like a huge success for a first game. Like my first games were nowhere near this good. I'm fairly confident. And yeah, because the color design is really excellent. It has music, which is awesome. Always have music and sound effects for your games. Always. Doesn't matter if they're bad. It adds so much. And of course, if the player doesn't want them, they can always just mute it. And I certainly did not have music and sound effects in my early work, as is very common. But it's really awesome. These two developers were able to do that on their first go. Okay. There we go. Yeah, obviously it's just the same track over and over. It gets pretty repetitive very quickly. But that's fine. It's just a game jam. Alright, there we go. Just a game jam and their first one. Again, the graphics are like really excellent. I got distracted there. Graphics are really excellent. Minimalist design is almost always a good idea, especially for game jams. And the fact that, the UI is all the same color, like this is really, really pretty. And I love the little background with the little kind of, you wouldn't call that like cross shading, whatever it is. It looks really, really good. And the snowy little mountain looks excellent too. I'm fairly certain like that's procedurally generated, right? If not, it's so good. It looks great overlapping. I'm trying to notice patterns in the snow. Okay, there's that little S pattern again. It might be the same texture, just kind of looping. Probably is, yeah. But it looks really, really nice. It blends well. There's definitely no seams, which is not an inconsiderate feat. It's very nice. I don't think there's much more that could be said about this game. It's just a nice little game jam game. Really good effort for a first game jam. My big suggestions is just keep making games. This is a really good start. Don't split the audio into 2 tracks. Keep everything mono. Okay, I don't know. I don't know the best way to approach it. I should have turned black and then jumped over. Yeah, right. I don't like how the music's coming in one ear and the sound effects in the other. Or I think the sound effects might be in both. Again, maybe that's just my experience with my hardware setup right now. But I don't feel like it is. So just stick to mono in most cases, unless you have a good reason not to. Keep up this kind of really good art style. Color palette's super important. This monochrome color palette really, really works. Really nice UI, just very simple but effective. I love the art. Little smiley, really happy face is great. Love the snow, love the background. It's all very, very well done. And fantastic job getting this to be HTML5 playable and so bug-free. Genuinely, like this is so good for a first-time game jam and potentially just first game in general. This is really, really excellent. If you could, make more music so that you vary the audio. I'm a huge supporter of adaptive audio, where the music and even sound effects change in reaction to the gameplay. I think that's always really great. Like the music could speed up, could crossfade to other tracks, change the pitch. Lot of cool things you could do. With the scoring system, not a big deal. It's really not. I was talking about that with the timing, and I stand by what I say there, but it's not a huge deal. But yeah, do try and think about... Oh, God. Man. Do try and think about how the randomness is going to affect the player, and if there's just like this huge benefit to one player or another, but not only the benefit, but also just their experience. Like, is the randomness really going to impact their experience positively or negatively? And how do we control that, mitigate that, utilize that, however it may be? And wow, this is awesome that it runs in browser, as all itch.io games should. There's no maximize button, and I'm pretty sure with Godot games, that's just like a setting. It's pretty much all major game engine exports. There's just a setting. Or actually, no, actually, I don't think it's in Godot. I think it's just within itch.io. Yeah. When you upload the game and you set it to be playable in browser with HTML5, as you have perfectly done here, great job on that. There's also a little Boolean toggle that you could turn on that says, it's like allow full screen switching, I think. You can also set it so the game, you have to click on it and it opens in full screen only, which sometimes can be good. I generally don't recommend that. I think this is great, but it's really nice when I can click the button and then I can optionally toggle it on to be full screen. That's really good. I really suggest doing that wherever you can. Always give the player more options. And again, the movement options, you only have the up and spacebar. Just make W jump. Like, for most people, using WASD in the spacebar is going to be a lot more comfortable and more familiar than this arrow keys spacebar. I mean, arrow keys are used, but it's not as good. God, I really suck. And yeah, with any game engine, it should be literally no more work. You just add an or to the if statement. So when you do up to jump, say up, keyboard check pressed or whatever the function call is, up, or W, or Z. Again, while everyone knows arrow keys and WASD pretty much, do not forget ZQSD. ZQSD is the equivalent of WASD for AZERTY keyboard users, who are primarily in France, but all around the world. And that is an audience you don't want to isolate, because a lot of times, if a game only has WASD controls, which is, as you can imagine, very, very common, it makes it like literally unplayable for basically everyone with an AZERTY keyboard. And yeah, you don't want to isolate French users. French users make up a big portion of game players, actually. I mean, that France's Ubisoft and a lot of great companies. There's definitely an audience there you don't want to ignore, even for itch.io games. Man. And yes, speed up this stuff, because I would be a lot more engaged if I could just get to that hard bits really quickly and I didn't have to sit through this, because right now it really does feel like I'm just sitting through this slog. That's great. Like, I really like this tutorial with just simple text flowing by, and then if the player doesn't do it, they die, except for the spacebar. You could actually play the whole game without ever using the spacebar if you just weren't paying attention to the text, which is not the player's fault, really. You should never really expect the player to read the text. It's as you've probably experienced in your own play, it's kind of just a natural instinct to not read the text, skip it over, because you want to get to the actual game, right? And so by forcing the user to read the text, by making them die, so like if you don't read the text to jump, then you hit the wall and you get knocked out, right? Perfect. That's really solid, really good tutorial game design, basic stuff, but always very effective. You should do the exact same thing with the color change mechanic. If there's just a huge wall that they could not possibly jump over, so they had to use the color switch, which is also a way you could vary this potentially. That again, I don't know, with the random spacing of the pieces, it's probably not a great idea, but I do feel like the game is pretty playable and beatable by just using the up arrow. And you don't want that. You put a lot of work into the whole color switching mechanic, and that's kind of the whole point of the game. So you should really make sure people use that mechanic and feature, and don't miss out on that half of the design, because that truly is like half the game, right? And what separates it from And what separates the game, Color Roller, from other similar endless runners, right? And yeah, I wish I could skip through this. I wish it didn't play. You could maybe play it once, and again, just make sure within the game's design that, yeah, I didn't have to use spacebar to get through that. I can just jump over those little posts because they're just coming one at a time. But if there's a really tall wall or a big array of them that I could not possibly jump over, although I think a taller wall would be a lot clearer to the player than a long row of them, because they might feel, oh, I just mistimed the jump and try again, which can be frustrating, and you don't want to waste the player's time. Never waste the player's time, which is, unfortunately what's happening with that kind of long repeated tutorial in this, where just nothing is happening. I don't even have to give input, really, until those 2 black posts came up, and even then, it's very minimal. Well, that was great. You can play Color Roller here on itch.io for free. This was made for the TriJam Mega Jam, which is really great. I think it did pretty good. Got in 5th place for enjoying the game overall, and there was 20 entries. Yeah, so really excellent for a first game ever. Really, really cool. Please keep making games. This is so great. Always love to see new game developers enter the field. We always want more people. I'll load it up again, but I'll mute the site. Pro tip: if you don't know how to mute it, right-click your Chrome tab and hit mute site. And yeah, great job with the art. Great job with the music. Honestly, all my suggestions are fairly minimal. You just did a really solid job. Please make more. Well, thank you for listening. I hope you have a lovely day. Please remember, an eye for an eye makes the whole world blind. Love and respect thy neighbor, and love yourself. Please like and subscribe if you have the time and, feel able. I mean, it's a split second to do and completely free to you, but, it's up to you, friendo. And have a nice day. Bye.